What up, guys? Another Adonis review. Today I'm going to do Gotham Knights. We are now over half a year in on this game being released. Now, to first start off, I want to kind of go into my mindset in the Batman Arkham series and my general viewpoint and all, so you can kind of understand how I feel about this series in a whole. And I love it. I think Arkham series, Arkham City being, one of the best games made at the time. I mean, the graphics were phenomenal. The city, the style, the content, they really gave you a kind of like a day in the life of Batman, with plenty of big storyline villains, not just being, a one-string villain note for the whole game, but being, multiple big villains that you fight as kind of like side missions almost. So they have always had a high bar, and that was, back in, 2000, between 2010 to 2015, so coming into this, over 5 years later, I had the highest of hopes, thinking that this game would, blow my mind, provide graphics, way beyond what we saw before, which would be impressive, and gameplay just as good, if not better. I mean, just really upping the bar and everything. And unfortunately, I'll start off by saying I left being underwhelmed. Instead of taking, 5+ years advantage and moving forward, I feel like we've actually kind of moved backwards overall. And it's basically like they traded off all the advancements that we could have had in this game and essentially swapped it for being able to play cooperatively with another person, which is great, but I don't know how they couldn't make the game better with that being attached. So I guess just to give an oversight of the game real quick, essentially in this game, Batman dies, and now it is left to the Gotham Knights to take the mantle and investigate his murder and stop crime since Batman is gone. And you can pick between one of 4 characters to basically do this, and play with friends who can also play as, one of those 4 characters as well. And you can partner up and do it the whole game with them, which is basically the main selling point, and something I did. I played the whole game with one friend, and which was a big selling point. There's not a lot of games today that are good, and especially in this, where it's like a linear kind of story plot that you follow and can play with a friend. So I thought it was great. I was excited to play this advancement of the Arkham series with with someone else. But like I said, it did kind of let me down. The positives I'll first go into is, I at first thought I was kind of impressed. They do give you kind of like, even though it's kind of like a main story, they give you essentially kind of like multiple, instead of like having a bunch of side missions, where you fight a bunch of villains, kind of how they come up. Instead, they kind of give you a breakdown of like almost like 4 or 5 main plot side missions that you track for 4 or 5 main bad guys, like Harley Quinn, Clayface, Mr. Freeze, and so forth. So honestly, that might have been a pretty good breakdown with a good amount of quantity in the game. At first, I was kind of impressed. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Until I figured out that it kind of stopped. I feel like if they added maybe 2 more at minimum, but honestly, I feel like maybe 3 or 4 would have really been like, okay, maybe I will give this game more credit. So if they would have added 2 or 3, 2 more villains at minimum, it probably would have been pretty cool how they kind of broke it down, having, let's say like 6 or 7 Batman villains overall as kind of mini side plots, and then the overarching story is another one as well. but they don't give you that many. You know, like I said, they still give you like a few, which is nice. But I do feel like it kind of ran short, even so this game is, you know, technically like a, I don't know, 20 to 30 hour game. So I guess it is fair, but I did kind of feel like by the time I was really getting the hang of it and getting used to upgrades and all that fun stuff, it ended. It was kind of at the ending point, which is a shame. Another thing to kind of keep in mind as well that kind of bugged me out was like a lot of the things they really kind of stacked this game full of side things to do that didn't really matter. And like I said, you kind of don't care about those side things until you get to the point where it's like already over. They've made a lot of suit crafting, like just a huge amount of crafting and upgrading and every type of, you know, like your weapons and your suit. You're constantly getting things to possibly upgrade it or get a new one or craft a new one or switch suits and whatnot. And it happens so much, but again, this isn't a 100-hour game, so it's like by the time, it just really isn't necessary. And again, by the time you really start kind of getting used to it, it's over, and it didn't really matter at that point, or you don't get enough time to really craft. And then the side missions beyond the kind of the bigger ones that are people are kind of worthless. I mean, honestly, one side mission is, of course, obviously opening up fast travel by finding these drones and recording them. And honestly, it was almost not worth doing, because honestly, you could just drive the motorcycle to where you were going to go. It didn't really feel like a thing that you were really needed to do. And I honestly didn't worry about it. And it's not like it's that tough to find the drones and unlock them, but it kind of felt not needed. And there was also a lot of like side people that they kind of push you to talking to that you think are going to lead to a real mission, and you get there and like that was what you had to do, and felt pointless. So overall, I feel like the pacing kind of wasn't that good. I didn't like the pacing of it. I felt like I said, I feel like kind of by the time you got used to it and everything, it was kind of over. They have an open city kind of full of, you know, stopping crimes and doing little things like that you never really feel fully immersed enough to actually try and do it. So it doesn't actually add any benefit, at least in my eyes. It seemed kind of worthless. The graphics, you know, didn't par them. I mean, I'd have to recheck what Batman looks like, but you know, maybe my memory is just old, and because I haven't seen it, but I feel like, you know, Arkham City might have even had better graphics than this, or even on par, or maybe rougher edges. But I mean, honestly, I was expecting a lot more after over 5 years of an upgrade that should have been applied to it. The graphics aren't, you know, the worst thing in the world, but I did expect a lot more. I feel like the fighting mechanics overall kind of were choppier and more rougher on the edges as well, which you think would be improved. And the biggest pitfall is obviously the biggest selling point I can see to anybody for why you should buy this game is to play it with a friend. And the servers, when you play with a friend, get real choppy sometimes. I think the game might look smoother if you played it by yourself, of course. Maybe, which is why I kind of have a downward opinion on how it looks, because I played all of it with someone else. But I mean, it plays kind of rough when you're with somebody. I mean, the benefit also, though, is that you can separately go your own ways on the map and go do your own thing, and you know, you go basically completely in a different direction, do completely a different thing in a different part of the city, and your game won't stop you from doing that, which is cool. But it does penalize you frame rate wise to do so, which isn't great. I mean, so overall, I mean, like I said, if you were a fan of the series and, you know, you thought this would be game breaking and, you know, again, would have only advancements from the game that's over 5 years old from now, you're going to be probably pretty depressed and, you know, not see that, unfortunately. And it's not going to be what you hoped it would be. Is it a terrible game? You know, it's not the worst game in the world. It is decent at some points, and like I said, it's good to play with your friend. If you can, that is the way I would play it if I were you. I think it gets most of the shine if you do play with someone else. But it's definitely going to be a by-the-numbers average game overall. I don't think it's going to give anyone the feelings of Arkham City when they played it and, you know, were impressed by what they gave you at that time. This is something definitely more forgettable. So, that definitely wouldn't be the first thing I buy. I know it's been a few months. they probably will have it on sale. In my opinion, this game is, you know, like a $20 max. I think you should pay for it. You know, probably like $15. What I'd wait to pay it if you want to play it with a friend or something. But just something to keep in mind. I hope that gives you at least some type of output on the game. Let me know if you think, you know, if you liked it a lot more. Maybe I'm off base about how it is and how great it is, but if you think this is somehow better than the Arkham City games and those of the past, then I'm way off. I'd love to hear it too, and let me know why you think that might be. Later, guys.